Guys, welcome back to the channel. Today me and Mason, and I think maybe Bailey, we're going to be pulling the motor out of my 2001. If you guys watched the last video, this truck actually has an oil pressure issue. It will not make any oil pressure, and we're pretty sure it's the main bearing. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to fix this truck because I want to use it as my work truck slash daily driver when possible. So we're going to put a motor in this thing. It's a 2001 Dodge Ram. The 6-speed manual, 4-wheel drive truck, so it is really nice, and it is kind of exactly what I was looking for, minus a dually. I really wish it was a dually, but for now, shouldn't take us too long, probably a couple hours. We're gonna pull this motor out of this truck and try maybe to get it on an engine stand, and we'll pull the oil pan off of it. When we get on the stand, people always gotta mess with me. I'm trying to take videos. Put the camera on. Anyways, so Mason's gonna help, Bailey's gonna help. We're gonna get this motor pulled out real quick and stick it on the stand, pop that oil pan off. Maybe it was the main bearings. I don't know if it's the main bearings or the rods, but for some reason we don't have any oil pressure, and we've checked everything else that it could be, so we're pretty sure it needs a motor. So we're gonna set you guys up on the time lapse. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna pull the batteries out of it. We've already professionally recovered all the AC. Actually hauled it up on a trailer this morning to Buddy's shop to get all the refrigerant out of it. And we're going to pull the AC condenser off of it, intercooler, radiator, core support, both batteries, probably leave the fenders on, and then start getting the wiring pulled off of the engine harness. It is a 6-speed and it still has the trans in it, but I don't want to pull the trans out, so we're going to try to ratchet strap it up and then just take the motor mounts off the motor, slide the motor forward, and be able to actually get it out of there without having to pull the trans. We may do that when we go back together. We may drop the trans real quick. But I really don't have a plan yet. I don't have a motor for it. So without further ado, let's get you guys set up on the time lapse, and we'll start getting this thing tore apart. Okay guys, as you can see on the time lapse, we are actually starting on pulling. I pulled the valve train off of it, and Mason's pulling the lines off right now. And I decided against the traditional way of pulling this, of just leaving the long block together, just to make it a little easier to get to everything. I'm going to pull the head off of it. So we're going to get the lines pulled off, and then we have return line on the back of the head. All right guys, we got the head pulled off of it. and it is actually in really good shape. So if I send ahead to the machine shop for the motor that goes back in this will probably be the one that I send in, because it's, like I said, it's in really good shape. Look at the cross hatching. I mean, this motor's looks good, super clean, but Mason had kind of pointed out that the O-rings on the injectors were pretty, they're just really flat. I mean, then he says they weren't a tight fit, so we're wondering maybe if a lot of diesel was leaking down into the crankcase, and actually maybe that's what was giving us our oil pressure issue, is a lot of it was just diesel fuel. But it already had a knock at this point, so I mean, it's got to come out. And yeah, dude, that's crazy how clean that is. I don't think I've ever seen one that shiny. I mean, it's like chrome. So now you guys can kind of get a good idea of what we got to unhook over here on this side. We got the fuel bowl unhooked over off to the side. A couple fuel lines back here we need to get moved out of the way. And then the transmission bolts, which is going to make it a lot easier to get it out this way with what we did. So we'll be able to bring it up as high as we want, because it's just really a pain in the butt. So we'll just have to take those motor mounts loose, but we won't have to actually take them off. So yeah, I'll probably pull the ECM off real quick, just because I don't want to get it torn up, and then we'll just kind of get all this stuff pulled off the side here, put a ratchet strap under the transmission, and then we'll pull this short block out of here and we'll put it on our engine stand over there. This head, I'm really surprised at how good this head looks. I mean, there's no cracks in it anywhere that I can see. So, thankfully died, didn't it? Yep, it died right before we got the motor pulled out. But we got her stuck out of there. I ratchet strapped up the trans, you can see. Got a ratchet strap around to support it. And we did actually have to pull the mounts off of the side here. It's not a big deal, but these are always super tight and it's a pain in the butt to get to them. So right now, Mason's getting the engine stand ready. We just want to know what happened to this motor real quick. So he's putting some bolts on it real quick, and we're going to flip it upside down. Check it out. Here's the clutch. This kid just put a clutch in it. Yep, still in pretty good shape. But yeah, so now just kind of got to tidy everything up. And I'm thinking about maybe putting some insulation on the firewall while the motor's out. Not 100% for sure, because I mean, the insulation that's here is not in terrible shape, but it definitely doesn't make a big difference on how quiet things are. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of clean up, and then we'll flip this motor over and we'll see what the main bearings look like. Off real quick, then we're gonna knock one of these main caps loose and see what they look like. Bailey came back over to help now that the hard part's done. So here we go, we'll get this thing popped off here and see what we're dealing with. Huh? No, it's not the oil pump. He already put one in there. There's nothing in there. I mean, I've ran the motor pretty long, so it'd be trash at this point. I've been using it to take the trash cans down the driveway. It's my trash can truck.
You've been driving to the liquor store?
No, I haven't took it to the liquor store.
Should've.
I could have, but hell, it's probably locked up. It started knocking louder and louder. Mason loves getting his hands all nasty like that. He never wears gloves. He's like getting all gross. We're about to go to a restaurant and he's just gonna go like that.
Yeah. Might jump into a bucket of oil before.
Yeah, he just wakes up in the morning and rolls around in the driveway before he leaves.
I don't wake up.
Get it off there, Bailey. Grab it, Bailey. Huh? Ooh, she is nasty. I don't know. Oh yeah, there's some metal in there. There is definitely some metal in there. What? Where's the gut play at?
Somewhere in here.
I don't know. We're starting to get a knock, but no oil pressure. Let's pop one of the mains off and see what they look like. Rod pop or main bearing popped off there, and you can cut your fingernail on that. It's a pretty sharp gouge right in the middle of it, so I don't know. I'd have to say that even if this wasn't what was causing our low oil pressure issue, the motor wouldn't last much longer anyways. So I don't know. I don't know if I want to try to rebuild this one. Crank doesn't look bad. I could rebuild it for content on the channel, but I don't know. We'll see. I'd probably find about another motor for as much as a rebuild kit cost. You know, I'd like to know how to do it, but I'd like to say I've done it at least, but I don't know. We're gonna clean up a little bit, and we're probably gonna go to a truck meet. Hey guys, we are kind of just pricing stuff right now, and I really am not opposed to trying to rebuild this engine. I'm sure we could do a good job on it and probably wouldn't have any problems if everything was good with the block, but to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure that that is exactly the issue. I mean, the mains are pretty worn out on this thing. You know, it had a pretty big scratch in it, but I just don't know if that would make the oil pressure drop enough to, you know, see that type of, I mean, it literally wouldn't put any oil to the turbo at all. Barely built enough to kick the sending unit, because their sending units are dummies. They don't really give you actual readings, so I don't know. We're just kind of thinking about it, and I don't know. I mean, I could buy, for what it would cost for me to rebuild this, it'd be just as cheap, if not cheaper, to just put a good running long block in it. And to be honest with you guys, that's probably the route we're gonna go. If this thing had like blow by, that'd be one thing, you know, but who's to say that it's not something internally in this block, you know, a cracked oil galley or something, and it caused it to drop oil pressure, because it really wasn't knocking whenever I first got it. And then I just kept using it to take my trash cans to the end of the driveway. And the knock just got louder and louder. And you guys seen the rod bearing, a couple of them are scratched up. And that main bearing, that one's, you can catch your fingernail on it pretty big. So I don't know. I have one motor located already with 120,000 miles on it I can get. And it's really cheap. So that might be the one that I just stick in it. So we'll basically just swap the timing cover, all the engine, because it's an industrial engine, so we'd have to just swap everything over to that one, then we can just stick it back in here. I'm also probably going to have a dual disc clutch to go with this that's used, that came off this 12 valve right here, so I may take the dual disc that came off that, bolt it on a new engine, stuff it back in here, and just be able to use it as a truck. I don't think we're going to go crazy with painting anything or anything like that, you know. It does have a tappet cover on it already, which will save me a couple $100. It's got a nice little industrial injection tappet cover on there, so I don't know. I don't know at this second, right at this second, but now that we know that the mains were pretty scratched up, we kind of have an idea of what we need to do. So I think we're gonna go grab something to eat, and we may go to a truck meet after that, so I'll catch up with you guys then. All right, guys, it is now the next day, and before I close this video out, I want to go ahead and let you guys know that I have already today went and looked at 2 different possible motors for this truck, and I'm just striking out, guys. The first one I went and looked at was it was basically a whole truck. I was gonna buy a whole nother 6-speed 2-wheel drive, but it was an 01, and it was just right down the road from my house, and I get there, I start up, the motor knocks. You know, I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know how many of these motors before for projects and stuff, and just bought them blindside without even hearing them run, and I've just never had a problem with them knocking or, you know, having issues like that, these oiling issues. And now I'm just super paranoid because I've seen so many. I'm just extremely paranoid to buy anything because I'm like, I don't want to do all this work and it be a junk short block. So I'm just I'm kind of striking out. I went and looked at another motor that was out of a school bus, but it had, I mean, it was down to basically, I was basically buying it for the short block, and it was going to be a ton of labor to get the short block resurrected out of this school bus. And I was like, I'm just going to pass on it. I really don't want to do that. So yeah, that is where we're at for now, guys. I'm still looking for a motor. If any of you guys have any leads, let me know. A good 01 motor or 02. And yeah, I'm also kind of leaning on maybe building that motor over there. I don't know, which that one had a rod knock or wrist pin slap or something. It had some type of knock. So I don't know. I just striking out, guys. They're there, but they're 4 or 5 hours away, and I just normally can find them like that. I'm really excited to get this thing put together. It's gonna be a fun running truck. These are the injectors that came out of it, these 7x10s. So those are probably like 150 horse injector. And then we got this turbo to put on it. It's a 62, 65, 13. This is basically the same exact turbo that was on the Shorty, except it has a little bit tighter exhaust housing, so it'll spool a little quicker, which is what we're gonna want for this 6-speed. So yeah, I'm gonna be on the lookout for motors, guys. As soon as I get one, we'll go through, put all new gaskets in it, stuff it down in this truck, and get this thing running. But for now, we'll see you guys on the next one. See you later.